What's up, guys? Hey, I'm Dustin Ibarra.
And I'm Greg Baldwin.
And we're podcasting.
Yeah!
Yeah, man. Welcome to Good Things Are Happening.
Man, it's good to be here.
Good things are happening, dude.
It's awesome, dude.
It's
awesome,
exciting.
Man.
This is awesome because, like, we're doing this podcast and, like, good things are happening. And then it's like, I feel like we manifested this kind of.
Dustin and Greg are out of town making people laugh, and whenever that happens, this producer gets to work hard putting together a compilation episode of some of our favorite moments on Good Things Are Happening. This one covers career journeys, career advice, stories of serendipity, and my favorite, the best heckle ever. Enjoy!
Please welcome our guest today, Zoe Friedman.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Your mom and dad started the improv in 1963, and one of the interesting stories is they ran out of money, so they couldn't afford more renovations. So they tore down the walls, and there was a brick wall behind it. So they used the brick wall as the backdrop, and now that's the signature backdrop for all the improv comedy clubs because they were cash poor.
Bro, not just comedy clubs. Like, I'll see that in cartoons whenever they're like
Right?
a comedy club. It's always a brick
iconic.
wall.
It is a brick wall, and it was happenstance. I mean, it truly was. I think that is absolutely the right story, how I heard it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I inherited from my parents or even my dad's book or researching is that it was there. The brick wall was already there, and they had no money to fix it.
Ah, gotcha.
And my dad's a Jew and didn't know how to fix stuff. So, it stayed. And it is so funny that it has become such a iconic piece of stand-up, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, my mom and my dad started together, but we are in the world of history.
Yeah.
So, and it didn't start as a comedy club either. I mean, it was a club where people would come after the theater. My mom was on Broadway. She was a singer on Broadway. She was in like Damn Yankees and How to Succeed in Business and Fiorella, like Golden Age, Pulitzer Prize winning shows. And my dad loved the theater. And he was what they call, and I have to give myself a moment because I say the wrong thing, backdoor Johnny, not backstage Johnny. I think that's the problem I made. Backstage Johnny, the people that hang out, like the groupies who love theater.
Yeah.
And my dad would like wait for my mom to get off, and they would go out to places, and they kind of ideated the idea of this kind of place for people to perform after the theater. And then it evolved. It improvised itself into a comedy club, which I think had everything to do with the time, 1963, things were changing, right? So, Civil Rights Act, Kennedy was assassinated. And it was a time that comedians' roles changed, like political, the David Frys, it has, and my parents were forward-facing people that allowed for political, wild, forward-thinking stuff, So I think it kind of evolved. They kind of created a soapbox in front of a brick wall, really, almost, and it evolved into what it did with love and kindness by my parents, so
That's so cool because they were just like bringing these artists together. Because like I like whenever artists hang out, it's like they want to hang out with other artists and stuff, and it just kind of like became a comedy club. That's like so cool.
I had read, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was a very famous comedian that said, "Hey, can I run a few minutes here?"
Dave Astor.
Yeah, that's it, Dave Astor, and he went and ran a few minutes of comedy, and that started.
It changed everything.
It changed, right?
They were improvising. There was a lot of improvisation going on, like people from the theater, Marty Harvey Freeberg and Richard Pryor, who did stand up, but came and did improv.
Yeah,
almost like immersive theater, like they would do it all, on the stage and kind of through the audience. And then Dave Astor came and he did stand up on the stage, and he brought people in. And what I heard, another little tidbit about that is Dave maybe provided, smoked a lot of pot, whatever, was kind of a provider, and where pot goes, comics go, and Pryor.
This is very true.
And Pryor came along with, and then it sort of evolved, and they had music as part of the shows, which stayed until I think the 80s, 90s. Music opened up shows at the Hollywood Improv here too when we started. I was 8 when my parents started the club out here. So
Speaking of someone who works all the time, has been working for a long time. Very funny, very talented, always dressed spectacularly. Gabriel de Lora.
Let me tell you guys, when I left the Navy, there was a friend of mine that told me, he was a Jewish cat, right? And I always remember this advice he gave me because I think that advice is one of the things that truly changes my life. And I always go back to what he told me, right? His name is Bradley. He said, hey, remember one thing, whatever you do in life, people don't get what they want because they don't ask for it.
People don't get what they want
because they don't ask for it. So you got to be assertive.
Yeah, it's like whatever you want to do in life when you get out of the Navy, you better ask for it. If not, you're never gonna get it.
That makes a lot of sense, dude. Yeah.
If you're gonna do a negotiation, if you want $10,000 more, ask for $10,000 more.
Yeah, you got to take action.
Take action,
bro. I'm all about action now.
Action.
It's like you can pray for something, you can want something, but you got to take steps.
Take steps to
do those things. Yeah.
There's a beauty in that, and I think we sometimes as men we don't understand the power we have as men. What is masculine energy? Leading. Leading is masculine. Taking action is masculine. We are in our masculine when we lead and take action. And there's something dope and beautiful and exciting about that. Because the answer is not in here. The answer is in the doing and the actions that you're taking. Right?
Yeah.
The God will move mountains.
Yeah.
All you have to do is bring the shovel.
Just bring the shovel.
I like that. Yeah. God moves mountains, but you got to bring a shovel.
You got to bring a shovel.
You got to bring a shovel.
Yeah.
You didn't make that up.
No.
I know.
I stole that from somebody.
Bro, I read that on a fortune cookie, bro. You did.
Please welcome to our podcast the wonderful, amazing, incredibly spiritually fit Tim Duffy.
Cool.
You know, so Dustin just recently did his special, but I haven't actually. So
oh yeah, maybe.
No, I'm just kidding.
Hey. An hour, dude. How do you, so it's an hour?
No, this one was 30.
30.
Yeah, I did 30.
Yeah, you did it 30.
Like, it's the internet. I'm like, I'm not famous. I'm just gonna do 30. Save the other 30.
Self-published.
Yeah. Said definitely self-published. Yeah.
I mean, that's what's blown me away about the industry in general for comedians is this the ability to self-publish and go outside the gatekeepers and be hugely successful with it.
It's
amazing to me.
Oh, it's insane. I feel like it's definitely there's more it's kind of like a double-edged sword because the comedian definitely has to work harder now, you know, whereas before it was like the agents and management that was like kind of the gatekeeping of it all, but now you don't even need any of that. Like you need it at a certain point, but I mean to break through, if you got like millions of followers, you know, they're gonna see your stuff.
That's the path. Somebody actually called me last night, and like I'm some expert, but they were really stuck on getting past at the Improv or the Comedy Store. When you get past, that means you get spots in the regular main shows. And I'm like, well, you gotta be famous or whatever. I'm like, that's the wrong approach. I think you really need to focus on self-development and comedy clips and content. And, I mean, there's, that seems to be the path now is to do it yourself. Right.
Well, and what a beautiful opportunity, and the sea change it back in the direction of now you're not just a comedian, you're an entrepreneur.
I like that.
You got to do it's a lot more. You got to do a lot more work.
You got to do a lot more work.
Because I was, I got into comedy to be lazy. Like it's fun, but it's like sometimes I miss just writing jokes all day and just like hanging out. Now it's like you got to post a video, got to do social media, do a clip, which is cool. It's better. It's just like in every things change and you got to adapt.
You're one of the hardest working comedians that I know. You're always writing new stuff. You're always developing. You're getting up multiple times a night.
I'm doing a lot better now.
I'm in big trouble.
Greg, this guy, this loaf of bread.
A loaf of bread.
Definitely.
I was trying to do loafing around and oaf at the same time. It's like a loaf of bread.
Multi-grain.
Bread.
He does, a little bit.
I grew up watching this dude on MTV. He was a VJ on MTV. And I was at a event. I was doing some public speaking. And he came up to me after and he said, He goes, hey man, I'm Matt Pinfield, and I'm like, I know who you are, dude. I know who you are. And we've been inseparable ever since, man. And so please welcome today our guest today, one of the great, just a legend, music legend, Matt Pinfield.
It was so much fun, and they said to me, man, you are like your Q rating. I didn't even know what the hell that meant, really. I knew what radio ratings were because I went to radio. I guess it was something that they did where they, or something? Yeah, it's likability or like whatever. And they, but the point was, I remember they said to me, dude, you have the highest Q rating and the least burn. And, they go, and one of my bosses told me, Judy McGrath, who I loved, she was the president of the company. She goes, and I don't mind telling you that because I know you're not going to try to put us over a barrel. And it wasn't because I wasn't, I was just, I was so grateful.
Your agent was.
It's funny. When I first got to MTV, guys, I came out of a, Jersey Shore radio. I was like, where do I sign? Yeah. I'm like, what do you mean? Sign away my firstborn? I already had my firstborn, but you can have the second.
That's what happens at the beginning. That's what happens at the beginning of your careers, right? Your first
you guys
movie,
those comedians, right?
Oh, bro, yeah,
you get burned,
Sometimes, even now, it's like my manager's like, I'm going to go back and ask for more. I'm like, oh, just be careful. I want to wait. Don't lose it. Don't let him find out I suck.
No, you guys, it's funny. We always have a thing. It's like I learned my lesson a long time ago because I'm really, everybody's terrible at negotiating for themselves. Some people aren't, but it's good if you have somebody else handle that business for you.
Dude, I've been telling you, man, you need a good agent.
Well, it's funny. My first manager ever was a comedy manager. It's Dave Becky from 3 Arts.
Are you serious?
Yeah, who's now one of the biggest producers in comedy and manages. Obviously, Kevin Hart and Chris Rock. Dave,
Bill Burr.
So the thing was, Dave and I were we met through a friend of mine, Michelle Dix, who got hired the day I got hired at MTV, who came from Letterman and worked in the music department. And I met him through just talking about music. And, I was like leaving to go work for Jimmy Iovine, and my boss, Andy Schoenigan, who was one of my mentors who I love dearly. So I was going, and I'm like, I got to do this differently. I got to get somebody. So I called Dave and Dave, can you please, will you do this for me? And he was like, he was so cool. And I remember 3 Arts, his partners are going, well, we usually don't, represent people that aren't in comedy or writer or whatever. He goes, but we think you're cool. You're a good fit. So I did it. They managed me for a while until I got so into working at Columbia Records and the record company thing that I was doing a little less TV stuff at that period of time, but we're still dears to friends. And, I really appreciate it because Dave did, he worked on, my deal with Universal and my deal with Sony Music. And thank God. Thank God, because I would have been like, what, 5 cents? 5 cents? Sure. So there you go. I'll pay for my own bus fare.
Please welcome today's guest, Frankie Quinones. Now, you mentioned your parents were big stand-up fans.
Yeah.
Was there a moment that you were really proud where you had your parents come out and see you at a show? Or?
Yeah, man. There's a few like markers or whatever in the career where it was, like when I produced a show where it was like flyers were still a time and all that. And I'll just be like trying to get people to show up to the Hollywood Improv. But I remember one time we like packed it out. Like it wasn't sold out, but it was packed. My mom and dad were there, and I felt like that was one. Because I was like, damn, cool. They used to come here when they were dating, and now they get to see their son fucking on the stage.
That is
like,
cool, man.
That's pretty cool, And then obviously getting the show this full was like, that was huge for them. My mom and dad were really pumped because my mom was just pumped. She's like, fuck me on, like even if you weren't on this show, like this is big.
Oh, that's
like,
huge, man.
Finally, this is one for us. And I was like, so that was another one I was just like pumped on. But yeah, now it's like. I think every show they go to and all that is pretty cool for them.
That's so cool.
Because they were like, there was a time, it's like, fuck, I was like, it gets, I'm like in my mid 30s sleeping on my homie's couch. Like any parent is going to be like, fuck, my mom like, come on, mijo, like,
you just, it's incredible. You just stuck with it, man.
Yeah.
You just stuck with it. Cause you see so many people drop out and give up because they can't.
Yeah.
The instability. It's hard, man.
Oh yeah. It's a marathon, homie. I did reach a point though where I was like, cause the 4-year mark is usually when, statistically is like when people either drop out because they'd be like, some people look at it as a shortcut into acting or or like there's many reasons why people come, and obviously in LA it's like everybody's coming, but I started doing stand up in San Francisco after I moved up there, and I'm kind of glad that I started there because I was able to get more stage time and stuff like that, but yeah, it was like, man, it's such a such a grind. There was so much ups and downs and discouragement. Luckily, I didn't get nobody pregnant or no shit like that because really I had only worried about myself, you know. But I did reach a point where I was like, fuck, you know what, homie, this is whether I make it or not, like I felt like I was stuck with it at some point, you know, like when I was 6 years in, because I just loved it so much. I was like, and at that point I was making like a few grand a month or whatever. I was like, you know what, I could live on this for the rest of my life. Like I'm not gonna be able to have a house or kids or nothing, but I was like, I'm just gonna do this.
That's where I'm at now. And you know, I'm in the struggle period where I'm barely getting by, but I'm paying my bills. You know, and that's okay, man. You know,
and it's like I look at it like it's like a job now. You know what I'm saying? It's like what other skill? Like this is a skill that I've developed, and it's like, oh, this is what switch to a different career where I'll make less. You know, like I put time into this thing. You know, this is like what I'm good at. You know,
Jim Carrey has that quote where he said, you know, his father was an accountant all his life because he had his, you know, he had to support his family, so he was an accountant, but he hated it, and then in his 50s he got fired. And so why, he said, if my dad can work a job his whole life that he hated and get fired, why not pursue something that you love?
Jim Carrey is very talented. He gives people too much hope sometimes, though. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know those dudes, like, it's like not everyone's Jim Carrey, you know? He wrote that, remember he wrote that $1 million check for himself that he's like, I'm going to cash it one day.
That's crazy,
I wrote one for like $1 billion, man. Just to like up that, you know? That hasn't happened yet, but you know, $1 billion. You feel silly. You know? You can write anything on a check, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
it's got a quote to look
bro,
at.
you know what? You know what's fun to do? Go to the ATM and just put one and then as many zeros as you can afterwards. Because the machine, it'll still
one day
be like,
I'll be able to withdraw this shit.
you can still press the button. It's just like, decline. Like,
decline.
You got me. Come on.
Somebody told me that they made a list of all the things they wanted in their lives, and all of it came true. So I made my list. It was Academy Award, multi-millionaire, like all the ridiculous things that are probably unattainable, but
oh man,
so far none of them have come true.
Nah,
you know what happens though, man? It's like you don't know what's gonna come true for you. You know, the last thing I would ever know is that I would ever imagine is I'd be working with guys from SNL. You know, and I'm sure, you know, and you with Craig Robinson and you with JJ Walker and then Pablo Francisco, right? That was a big influence
Pablo
on you.
took me out a lot.
I produced the SNL Love Show, and I was in the green room, backstage, sitting, I was meditating. Dana Carvey walks in.
Oh hell yeah, he's another
legend,
yeah,
right?
Church lady. Oh yeah, I love
Church lady.
Church lady.
Yeah. Church lady. Yep, chopping broccoli.
Yeah, Chris Farley obviously was great.
Yeah. So Carvey walks in. I ended up sitting down talking with him for like 20 minutes. He grew up in the same area, fashion. He went to. I'm sure he's been to Fashion Island too, and he grew up in the same area in Belmont.
Nice.
But and then Jay Moore came in. Then David Spade came in, then Kevin Nealon came in, and we're all sitting around and about to do a show together. And I'm sitting with these guys. Just like, Jesus,
Kevin Nealon's so cool too, man.
Kevin Nealon is cool, man. Yeah. He was one of the first when I got out here. I got to be on his show where he was like
new material or the interview one. Or?
Yeah, the interview one, man. And it was so because whenever you're talking with dudes like that, it's like. You also don't want to be too fanned out, like, oh, hey, but it's hard not to. You just got to tell yourself, like, oh, man, no, I'm here to do a good interview. Like, you can't be like, oh, my God, you're Kevin Nealon, bro. It's crazy, dude. What am I doing?
You're like, be professional. Yeah. You belong here. All right.
Bro, I remember We Bought a Zoo, whenever Cameron Crowe, he was introducing me to everyone. He's like, you know Matt Damon? Like I would know Matt, you know, like, oh yeah, we go way back. Yeah, of course.
Oh yeah, Matt, Matty boy. Yeah.
Hey, how's it going? He's like, oh yeah, I'm just a normal guy like you. And you're like, oh my God. You call your mom. You're not gonna believe what happened.
You thought I knew Matt Damon.
Daryl Hammond told me, because when I started producing the show, he just said no pictures. Like don't be one of the guys. Oh my, don't be a fanboy. He says you're a peer. You're one of their peers now.
Yeah,
you know, if it's like a group picture and everybody's taking the pictures, whatever, that's fine. But don't go up and start taking selfies with everybody. You know,
dude, it's so funny because you got to definitely keep that under control too, because you want people to feel like they're in a safe place or whatever with your peers. Because I've taken my mom to like red carpet events, and she like cannot help herself sometimes. She takes off her phone and I gotta be like, yo, come on. This ain't like, you know, you can't be doing that shit. Mom, no, come on, just one, you know, like da-da-da. Like, but yeah.
Dude,
I think like the pictures thing is when it kind of like gets, you know, like, okay.
Yeah, the pictures is hard. I save it all for like the last day of shooting. Then I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna go.
Shooting is different. Like when you work with somebody, I feel like, but if you're like, I don't know, it depends.
One time
I ask for a selfie every now and then. Hey, come real quick, you know, like,
it's gotta be the right time, dude.
Yeah.
It can't be fanboy.
So they,
you know, it can't be like, oh my God, you know, it's like,
bro, you start thinking, you're like, oh, this is gonna get so many likes.
Everyone's gonna be like, oh, I
dude.
just did this Walking Dead thing with his name, Andrew Lincoln, and then his homie, and I waited till the end of it. And I was like, fuck, man, should I ask for a picture? I wanted a picture. I was just like, because I got homies that love that show, you know, and I was like, and I asked him, you know, and I was like, fuck, man, did I make it weird? I was all in my head about it, you know, like, fuck, should I ask him for a photo? He was nice about it, but maybe he wasn't that into it, but he shook my hand and everything. But then he sent me an email, like a nice email after. He's like, yo, man, it was nice working with you. I'm very inclined to work with you again. And I was like,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Asking for the photo didn't weird him out, you know. I was like, all right.
Willie Mack.
C's.
That you guys do. We perform with a lot of people, that really famous people doing stand up and stuff, and people are like, "Oh, he's doing so great, you know, so great, man, he's killing it." But they don't know the financial struggle that entertainers have to go through to get.
Oh yeah, people see you on TV and they're like, "Oh, this guy is a millionaire." You know, that's what I thought before too. I was like, "Oh yeah, you know."
Especially when you go
money.
Home. Like, where I don't know where home is for y'all, but like when I go back to St. Louis, it's like Hollywood. I'm like,
Hollywood, it's expensive.
Hollywood. If we was living in other parts of the country,
it'd be the best. Yeah,
like my brother's complaining about his 2-bedroom loft in St. Louis, and he's like, "Oh, they went up on my rent. I got to pay $11.50 now." And it's a beautiful loft. It's like 1,200 square feet overlooking the Cardinal Stadium. Like, it's beautiful.
For 1,200.
And he's like, man, because at first for him it was $975. And then it went up, and he's like, oh, and I'm like, man, if I could only pay, you can't even find a homeless square out in downtown for that much.
No, bro, it's
everything's 2,000 plus.
Easy.
Yeah. No, it's crazy because you'll go back home and you'll see like someone you went to high school with, and they like got a really nice car, and you're like, "Oh, what do you do?" It's like, "Oh, I'm a locksmith." Like, damn, dude,
that's so true.
I think I picked the wrong like job here, man.
My brother bought a house, and he does baggage at my other brother. He does baggage at Southwest. He's a baggage guy. But got him a 3-bedroom house with a basement and a deck and like a acre backyard.
Yeah, just living like a king. We're out here in our fucking 1 bedroom with like 3 roommates.
It's cold, no furniture.
Yeah, man.
I studied with this acting teacher, Howard Fine, and I studied with him for a few years. But I remember one time he said to us, he said, "Listen, this is a bad career decision.
Yeah,
you know, if you have a job where you're making good money, stick with it, because entertainment and acting is a bad career decision." I was like, "What is he talking about, dude?" And it's like, "Oh, okay."
But I wouldn't change it.
Nope.
Wouldn't change it. I would do it all again.
Well, you're doing pretty well now, and Dustin's coming up big time right now. You know, I'm squeaking by. You know?
But even the squeaky feels good. Like, I don't want to go to a 9 to 5 and just like my brother, rain, sleet, or snow is out there throwing bags on a plane. Sure, he got in my house, but damn, it looked rough. And I like all my brothers are doing very well in their version of well, but I be looking at them like there's no freedom to like. I'm doing a podcast in the middle of a day on a Monday.
Yeah.
They can't do that. They're doing this right now.
And your brother's probably looking at you like, man, poor Willie. Dude. He's out there in LA, dude, just surrounded by homeless people.
I am complete. And like
having to do a podcast during the day.
Johnny Depp, was it John? I think it was Johnny Depp was saying like, this is just one of those industries where one day you could be serving somebody, be a waiter, and then the next day you could just buy a yacht. We're all just like one yes away from something crazy happening for us. Something crazy.
Yeah.
And I've seen it happen. Like a lot of my friends, like people that I started comedy with, like the Gerard Carmichaels, Brent Moore, and Ari, and just all of them. And you see how it happens. And because they are tangible for us, it makes it even more real. They're not just somebody that's on TV. We're like, wow, I wish I could meet them one day. I know them. I've seen them.
Yeah.
We've hung with them.
Yeah.
And it's like, we just know that one person in the audience could be like, huh. That's all it takes is a huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I-
like,
Dude, yeah, when I was like getting on TV and stuff for the first time, I would go back and the Dallas comics would be like, "Oh man, you're really inspiring, man." Because we'll see you out there. It's like, man, if Dustin can do it, I can do it. And I'm like, hey, you know what? Fuck you, buddy. You know? I got the X factor, bro. You might not be able to do it, dude.
You inspire
Slow your roll.
Yeah.
You inspire me every day, Dustin.
Yeah, like if Dustin, what? Dustin can do it. They're letting anyone into Hollywood now. It's so silly, man.
Today's guest is Mark, my good friend Mark, our good friend Mark Brazil.
Mark Brazil.
Oh, good.
What do you think was your big, like, I guess break? Like, as in, like, because there's two, I feel like there's two different ones. There's the one where you feel like you're on the right path type of break. And then the one where it's like, whoa, I made it.
Well, there's so many, so many. There's three moments that I remember forever. The first one was I'm at the Improv in Cleveland. Sarah Nye is the manager of that club. It's 1990. She said, I want you to stay over one day, Monday, even though I was supposed to be in Chicago at the Improv there. Monday, I'm flying out. She goes, I want you to stay open for Dennis Miller. It's his first gig after he quit SNL. She goes, I don't want to hire a local guy. I want you to open for him. And I'm like, great, because I don't know that I was that different from him. You know, I mean, material wise. And so, and the Improv corporate was like, no, we don't want to pay for the ticket, the change in the plane ticket. And Sarah said, I'll pay for the ticket, which was like, she changed my life. So I stayed over. I do 2 shows with him. At the end of the second show, he goes, you know, I don't do any of the material like you do, but if I did, I'd do the exact same material. And I was like, okay, I think that's a compliment.
Yeah.
And so he said, if I get my own TV show, will you write for me? I go, yeah.
Oh, dude.
And that was it. That was it. He
That's
got
awesome.
the show. And then
and that came from stand up too, which is so
stand-up.
cool.
Wow.
It's like,
I just opened for him. And by the way, I may not have opened for him.
yeah.
That's the thing. We talk about that. The plane that I got kicked off of that crashed. Like half the people lived, half the people died.
What happened? Yeah.
Yeah, it was 88, probably 88 or 89. And I forget the flight number, but it's pretty famous. It's pre-Sully, where the pilot, and I believe it was going from Denver to Chicago. The pilot, something happened, and he landed it in a cornfield, and he lived.
Wow.
And half the people on the plane lived. So I had gotten kicked off that flight because I was going to Louisville to showcase for Tom Sobel. And they said, we canceled your flight. You're on this flight. You won't get there till 8:00. I'm like, that won't work. I said, I got to get there at 6. And the guy goes, well, the guy at the counter goes, it's God's will. I go, oh no, you canceled my flight. God didn't cancel my flight. I'm losing my shit. This was pre 9/11.
I would have lost my shit if someone told me God's will.
I'm already
what
like,
are you talking about, man? It's the
got a
biggest
showcase.
moment ever.
Yeah, I got a showcase for the biggest guy on the East Coast.
Yeah.
You know, so they kicked me. They go, sir, you're unpleasant. We're going to put you on American. So United kicked me off and I'm on an American. I don't care. What is that? I'm still going to get there on time. It's such a crazy thing. It's pre-cell phone, 88.
Yeah.
People didn't have cell phones. Everybody thinks, what happened? This flight went down. You know, my ex knew I was on that flight, but I wasn't on that flight.
Whoa.
I get to that club, I get to Louisville, and I'm so panicked, you know, about period. I always was like hinky, but so I get there and I go in and I'm going to do my set to showcase for them for a lot of work, you know. And I walk in the office and Lenny Clark is there. And I was friends with Lenny Clark.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes to them, he goes, oh, you don't have to see this kid. He's great. Trust me. He vouched for me.
Oh, nice.
Like the mafia, you know, where he goes,
Yeah.
no, trust me. I've seen him. He's fantastic. I technically didn't even have to be there. You know, I had to be there for Lenny to get me in.
Yeah.
But it was like all that service, all that like.
That freaking out.
Right. And
like,
then at the end of it, which is a dickish thing to think, but I go, well, I guess it was God's will.
I was just going to say that. It was God's will. It
Right.
was.
Yeah.
And I never knew which seat I had, and I never wanted to know which seat I had. This is a terrible story, but it's a Bobby Slayton story. And I was in San Francisco, Pitbull of comedy.
Yeah.
And I'm with Kevin Rooney, who's a great writer who passed away a couple of years ago. And he was like my mentor. And he and I are going like top of the mark to drink. And I see Slayton crossing the streets. He lives in San Francisco. And I go, hey, Bobby. He goes, oh, hey, Brazil. You're the guy that couldn't cut it as a stand-up, so you became a writer. And I go, yeah, that's me. Hey, have a good weekend at Snickers in Minnesota. And he's like, all right. I don't miss that, man. I don't miss that at all.
Dude, because a stand-up life is like
so hard.
I can't it is hard. And just doing it forever, especially like, cause you see dudes like, if it's like, you know, that are those road dogs that have been doing it for like 40 years and they're badasses, but it's like their life each week is like, oh, this comedy condo, this. It's like they never like, it's like, especially if you have a family or something, it feels like that's not happening.
Yeah, I used to work for Tom Sobel, who ran the whole East Coast comedy caravan, and he worked out of the Funny Bone. And, I would work with guys. I was the middle. That's part of the.
That's me right now. I'm the middle. I'm a middler right now.
I love being a middle.
I'm middle sometimes. I like them. It's easy. Middle's great. Oh, it's great. Yeah, you don't
no
have
pressure. No you don't have to worry about ticket sales.
The ticket sales is what kills me. It's like, because like I love doing 45. I love closing out the show, but I hate it whenever a club owner is like, oh man, we only sold 100 so-and-so tickets. I'm like, oh, maybe you should have booked someone famous, It's like, what do you expect, man? Like, I don't know what to tell you. There's all this pressure, but yeah, I love that sweet middle spot.
Yeah, it's great. It's like you don't have to stay for the whole show either.
No,
like
just in and out.
MC has to, and the headliner has to follow you, and you just killed with your 20.
Yeah, But did you sell merch when you were out there?
No,
you didn't. Oh,
I should have.
I wanted to see what your merch was. I love like that wacky comedy merch.
I realized literally just now, like 30 years ago, I used to do this joke about baby and trunk, which everybody started making. And I thought, God, you could have made those stupid signs, because I worked with Engvall. Bill Engvall had the I'm stupid signs. And he was like, it's like one for $6 or two for $4. So everybody would buy two. And I used to, bust his balls out there. I go, how's your little thing? And he'd show me the wad of money going, pretty good.
Oh,
pretty
bro,
good.
yeah.
But I love Bill Engvall.
I started selling shirts and I was like, why wasn't I doing this forever? Yeah. But then it's like, if I show you like, Mark, check this out. You're like, oh, check out this residual check, buddy. Like,
she's just an incredible, wonderful, inspirational human being. And so please welcome our guest, Nancy Linehan Charles.
No, I went to college in Atlanta, Georgia. Then I got married and moved to Detroit, Michigan, went to Wayne State University for a master's, and then moved to Baltimore. And then we divorced and I moved with our child to New York. And so I was in New York for about 12 years. It's where I got sober, actually. And then I moved to LA, but I've just been here about 22 years, maybe 23.
And did you start breaking into like film and television in New York or LA?
No, well, I shot a couple of things in New York, but people say things like, oh, they're shooting a lot of stuff in Atlanta. It's that much compared to what shoots here. So really, LA is the place to be if you want to do television. And I've done television shows and movies and commercials. When I first got here, people said the best two jobs to have as an actor are either a regular role on a television show or a national commercial. And I think that's true. I've never been a regular. I've done guest starring roles the whole 22 years, but it's just where you have to be. You just have to be here. And you have to just go up for whatever you go up for. I mean, I say now, if like one of those casting services sent me a thing the other day for a co-starring role, I said, I don't do co-starring. I just do guest stars and recurring.
What's the difference between a co-star and guest star?
A co-star it's considered sort of the lower of the two. The next lowest level is extras.
So a couple lines.
You know, and then co-stars, and then guest stars, and then recurring.
Okay.
And then
So guest
regulars.
stars is your
Yeah,
body, is your level.
Is what I
Got
do.
it. Okay.
And my agent has ramped up my fee for that over the years, and it pays really well. So I'm happy to do it. I would love to have, whoever's out there, I would love to have a regular role just to see what that's like. Although going to the studio every day, I don't know.
Yeah, those crazy call times.
Today's guest is a great friend of mine. His name's Newton Mayenge. Now, basketball was a big part of your life. I know growing up, I know it was the love of yours. And you were playing. Something happened that impeded your career. What happened?
Well, I was playing overseas. I played in Germany for 2 seasons. Signed a contract after the second season to play in Spain.
Wow. Germany, playing basketball in Germany, man.
You're a guard?
Point guard. Yeah.
Point guard. Oh, you got skills.
Yeah. And I was about 225 back then. I was a heavy guard.
Yeah.
Totally ripped and all that. Not so much now.
No, we could see. You look good, man.
Well, I appreciate that.
Did you eat schnitzel out there and all that?
Man, I
all
ate
the
it.
German stuff?
I ate it all, man.
Yeah.
I ate it all, man. And I love the
I grew up
food.
in a really like German town in South Texas.
Really?
Yeah, they had this thing called Wurstfest every year. It was like sausages and beer and like polka.
Oh yeah.
Music.
Oh yeah. The German culture is fantastic. I mean, they have a great time.
Yeah,
it's very
wild.
simple. They work hard, but they play hard. So yeah, I had 2 seasons in Germany. I played in the city of Ulm, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with, but it's about 2.5 hours south of Frankfurt.
Oh yeah, Frankfurt.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Maybe about 45 minutes from Stuttgart. I don't know if you've heard of Stuttgart.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stuttgart.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stuttgart.
Oh yeah,
Well,
Stuttgart.
they made the Mercedes, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, they got the lady with the bell.
They have the Stuttgart.
Right.
They have Stuttgarts there.
Yeah.
And Frank burgers.
Yeah,
Right.
Frankfurters.
I love a good Frankfurter. Frank burger?
I don't know.
Sounds good, bro. It's like a hot dog with a hamburger. Ooh, Frank burger.
I want to say
You're getting me
borscht.
hungry now, man.
Borscht
Stop.
or something.
Oh my
So
god.
then you went to Spain after that?
No, unfortunately, I got into that accident a month prior to leaving.
You got in an accident. What happened?
A drunk driver hit me. I was literally going to a workout.
What?
Early in the morning, it was like 5 a.m. Sunday morning, going to a workout. I'm going towards a curve. This car all of a sudden is coming around the curve. They came around so quickly. It's only one. It's one way going both ways, right? One lane going both ways. And we hit each other. I couldn't avoid them. Bam! Next, I'm in the hospital. I wake up in the hospital.
This is in Germany?
This was here.
Oh, here.
Yeah, a month prior to leaving to play my 3rd season of professional basketball.
Wow.
And end up having 4 knee surgeries, back problems for a while. It was a very dark moment in my life.
Well, of course, that's like one of those moments where it's like you kind of like see to quote that Chris Cornell song, you find your way and then you like see it disappear.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like you probably were like, yeah, because I would think like, okay, I'm going to Spain now.
Do you remember? Do you remember the accident? Do you remember or did you black out?
I remember the car coming.
Okay.
And I closed my eyes. I wake up, I'm in the hospital. Apparently, I had to get cut out of the car.
Wow.
It was devastating, man. But the guy who hit me, he ended up being paralyzed, which was, later on I did forgive him, and I felt bad for him.
Yeah.
But it was a process. And 4 knee surgeries. I tried to come back. I couldn't after my 3rd one. So now I'm forced to find some other things. Ended up going to school. Did the law school thing, the MBA thing. Never fulfilled me.
So you have a law degree? And
I do.
And you were studying to get your master's?
You could get my MBA, yes.
Your MBA, wow.
And but it didn't feel fulfilling to me.
Yeah.
But around this, I stayed here because I had moved out here for basketball. My agent was here. So after my accident, I stayed here, and people would always ask me, "Are you an actor? Are you a model?" So after a while, I said, "All right, let me see what that is," because I was trying to find something to do that would give me a similar passion.
I get asked the same thing. Are you a model?
Right.
I'm taking a break right now.
Right.
I want to backtrack. I want to backtrack a little bit. I mean, you had 4 knee surgeries, and did you have to? Was there a long rehabilitation period for that, like learning how to walk or?
Oh yeah, I mean, after the first go round, I mean, doctors say you're definitely not going to play again, but walking is going to be very challenging for you. So it was a process. Think of you're at the top of your game. Think of anything that you're at the top of, and all of a sudden you get knocked off that pedestal.
Yeah.
And now I mean, let alone just walking, living properly without any pain. So that's what I was dealing with. And walking up steps was a hassle. It was very painful. Doing simple things that, you know, we all take for granted. And that process, to go back to your question, was about 7 years.
7 years
total before I was, you know, back to 100% or 90%. Let me go back 90%. And the mental anguish, the trying all the different things, the holistic stuff, obviously the 4 knee surgeries, and just trying to have a better quality of life. That's what it came down to. But in that process, it really got me closer to God.
I bet that affected your spiritual growth.
It did, because I asked why. You know, for a long time, I'm like, why me? There's other people who do bad things. I was doing all the right things. I wanted to do this to take care of my family. You know, before I got into the accident, if I would have played that Spanish year out, I was going to go into summer league with the Boston Celtics. Wow. And I don't know what that would have been, you know, long term. So I can never say that would have been a thing or not, because I never got a chance to experience it. So all that stuff, just the mental anguish, it was very hurtful.
Oh yeah, that'd be devastating, dude.
Yeah.
I can only imagine, like, just, wow.
It just like dawned on me. It just hit me that, like, you got in this accident, you lost your basketball career, you had like your spiritual growth or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you became an actor and you got to play Jim Jones on the Lakers. That's incredible.
And that's why I enjoyed that role so much. It healed me. It gave, imagine something you wanted to do for 20 years and you come to grips that it's gone, but it's never really gone, right?
Yeah.
Then you get in a moment, in a situation where it can actually heal you from what you've been feeling. Yeah. So in a different form, I was playing a basketball player, an NBA player at that. And next thing you know, I'm getting all this notoriety and people recognizing me in the NBA.
Yeah.
Because of the show.
That's amazing. That's like a God shot type thing.
I
always think about that. I'm like, man, that is too like perfect. Dude.
Yeah.
It's too perfect.
Yeah.
It's too coincidental, you know? What's it called? Serendipity?
Right.
When sometimes, you know, they're subtle.
Yes.
You know, these little subtle things. And I always think the more conscious I am, the more I pray, meditate, do service work, the more conscious I am, the more I can see these little subtlety, serendipity, coincidences.
Yes.
But sometimes they're huge.
Yes.
And in this case, that's a big one.
And that's why I always came to set with so much exuberance. I'm so happy to be here, man. I'm so grateful every single moment. Because I knew I had 2 seasons anyway, because historically speaking, my character gets traded.
Yeah.
And so every moment on set, I literally embraced it. I was always in Video Village. I was always bugging Jim. I was always around the directors and, okay, well, let me see the shot list. And over time, they would start telling me, okay, this is what we're about to do next with Sally and Todd. And it was just an amazing experience. And I'm grateful for everyone top to bottom, all my cast and crew. Because it was a melting pot of newer actors, people in the middle, and icons.
Yeah.
Like Sally Field and Adrian and people like that.
That's incredible.
Sally Field is in that.
Please welcome my good friend, today's guest, Jim Hecht.
And John Leguizamo ended up doing the pilot. And then Johnny and I clicked because we're just kind of both the strange weirdness factor. Like we met on that level.
Wow.
And he got them to hire me for Ice Age.
Wow. Really?
And it was
dude. Okay, that is so cool. I got a John Leguizamo story.
You do?
Man. It was whenever I first came out to LA, I did this pilot called Only Fools and Horses, and he was in it. And we did 2 pilots, nothing ever happened from it.
I remember that though. Yeah.
Yeah, John was super cool. He took me to like, I think it was Oscar season might have been happening. He took me to a bunch of cool parties and stuff.
Wow.
And then like we still keep in touch. And I get a email from The Daily Show, like this is like a few months back, and they were like, "Hey, we're looking for like people for the show, and John recommended you. Could you send us your just all this stuff?"
That's great.
And I'm like, "Oh, that is so nice, man.
He's
so cool.
One of the best people. Like he's like Greg Baldwin. Honestly, like there's that same character of like goodness that like I can't quite match. Like I'm not quite that good of a person.
Yeah,
but those guys are.
They are so good,
just like naturally. And so everything in my life should be like stamped property of John Leguizamo.
That is awesome.
And I remember, so it was like 2 weeks and I was like, I will never leave. You'll never get rid of me. And I was there for 1.5 years. I moved to White Plains. And I remember I drove out there in like my beat down 15-year-old Honda Civic, and I bought my first like car. Nice. I bought like a Mercedes, and I called, this is so alcoholic, I called Johnny in the garage when I got it. I was like, Johnny, you made all my, I was like crying. And then I went upstairs like 5 minutes later, just some shit I had, like did not even affect my mood at all anymore.
You weren't even sure. You weren't even sure though that you were gonna be credited as one of the main writers, right? What happened? Yeah.
So I worked on the second Ice Age for a year. That was the one I was on for a year and a half, and I moved to White Plains. And at the end of that, you have like an arbitration to see who gets credit. And they're all anonymous writers, right? It's like A, B, C, D, E. I was writer F, I remember, because I was like, it stands for fucked. Because that was my experience in life at that point, was like, I'm going to get, can I say, I'm sure I can.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool with fucked. Yeah, I was like, I'm going to get fucked. Like for sure, I'm going to get fucked. And but I remember my lawyer was saying like, it's the guy who's overseeing this board is an old lawyer who used to work with our firm, and he's known for being exceptionally fair. So if it's supposed to work out, this guy will figure that out. And it went on for weeks, man. And I couldn't sleep. Every day I was like, I would sleep till like 3 or 4 because like I didn't want to get the call and have to hear I didn't get it. I wanted to get the voicemail. And finally I was driving to a recovery meeting, and I got the call live, and they were like, you got the credit. And like, I just like pulled over and cried. I was so grateful. And I went into that meeting because that's what you do. And, they do birthdays in LA for recovery milestones. And, they were doing them at that meeting, and this guy stood up, and he had a very distinguished, like a very specific first name you wouldn't forget. And he said, my name is, blank. I've been in recovery for 38 years. And I was like, it was the same name, the same first name. And so I went up to him afterwards. I was like, are you
what?
So-and-so? And he was like,
no way.
Yeah. He was like,
he was the guy that approved you to get writing credit?
He was the guy that headed up the commission, the board.
What?
That oversaw the guy who's known for being very fair. And he didn't know me. It was just writer F. Right. And so I was like, I'm writer F. I was like, I didn't have a career before you. Like, he was like, well, you got one now, kid.
Wow. That is so cool.
And so I see him at that same recovery meeting every week. And he
changed your life.
He's got to be in his 80s. And like,
that's insane.
But because it was like literally like, hear about it, walk in, there's the guy right there. And it was like,
I love those
someone
shots,
who always was like, I'm going to get fucked. Like that was my point of view on the world. At that point, that was like, and I don't, God, the universe, whatever it is, it was like, ha ha ha, I've been there, I had your back the whole time.
That's more than just coincidences. You look at all those little serendipity things, those little things, Well,
I told my recovery sponsor that, and he said, and I thought he was Yoda, but I've heard since he didn't make this up. He goes, well, kid, sometimes coincidence is God's way of staying anonymous.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Whoa!
Who's that?
Who's that? That's our Good Things Are Happening pod
producer Cecilie Korst. Oh my God, what are you doing here?
Wow, that's an awesome shirt. Where'd you get that? It says Good Things Are Happening. That's the name of our podcast.
Got it from the website.
What?
Yeah.
There's merch on our website?
Everybody has merch, dude. We can't get away with not having merch.
There's a way that people can support the Good Things Are Happening podcast by buying merch? That's crazy.
What?
It's cool merch, too.
Good merch.
It's good merch. Check it out. goodthingsareHappeningPod.com. Is that the website?
That is. Good thing.
Oh, yes.
Right.
I did.
Love when you do that.
Yeah, check it out, guys. We got a bunch of things on there. We got shirts, hoodies. Do we have socks?
We don't have socks.
We should get socks.
We should get
socks. Are coming.
Socks are coming.
But yeah, if you want to support the podcast, go to goodthingsareHappeningPod.com. Check out the merch section. We got a ton of things on there. And have fun. Spread the word. Spread the podcast.
Good things are happening.
Good things are happening.
Good things are happening.
This dude is hilarious. I get to work with him a lot on the local scene, a lot at Comedy Magic Club. Give it up for George K. Burns.
I feel like we're in the day and age where it's such about like the instant gratification and not the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's just like the gift is really in the journey of like, man, like the getting up, and, people don't see like the work that's been put in, what we do when we go like to a bar
with 3 people in there and then you doing some jokes and you get that, you're like, all right, yo, I appreciate y'all, man.
That cough, dude.
That cough is severe. That cough is elite.
Oh my God.
It's lethal.
Bro, I hate the mixing of the drinks. Like you can hear them putting the ice in a glass. You're like, oh my God, come on, man.
They turn the football game back on.
Yo, I've never heard dishes be so loud that when
they
you're on
get
that
so
stage.
loud.
I'm like, what? Like, can you please put the dish volume down?
Yeah.
Like to inside volume. Like y'all got a turn up knob now for some reason now that I'm up here not doing good.
Yeah, it definitely gets louder sometimes.
We did a show during the pandemic at a church, outdoor church. And because churches were allowed to have service, you know, before comedy shows were allowed to come back indoors. So we're doing a show at a church, and I forget who it was. It was a professional comedian. It might have been London Brown or somebody. It was a real good comedian. He was doing the story, and it was so quiet you could literally hear the crickets.
Oh my God!
And he's like, oh my God. He goes, I can hear he did a joke and nobody laughed, and he's like, listen, I can hear the crickets. He could literally hear the crickets, dude.
Hey, didn't you have some show where you could hear the microwave going?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's tough.
The microwave.
All you hear is
Someone's putting chicken in the microwave. They put chicken in the microwave.
Oh man.
What happened, dude? You gotta tell that.
Here's the story. So we're doing a show. It was in Inglewood. It was an all black show, and so it was like they were tough. Like it was like the Apollo, you know. If you're dying, they're gonna let you know. You know, they're and if you do good, they're gonna support you. So it was a boisterous crowd.
Oh,
right?
for sure. They're gonna let you know for sure.
They're gonna let you know. They're an honest crowd.
Oh,
honesty,
they're an honest crowd.
Inglewood, Pasadena, they will let you know.
They will let you know. So we're doing the show. The first guy comes up. Everyone's doing good, but one of the comedians goes up, and all of a sudden, the speakers, there's this static. You hear, and they had to stop the show, right? And so they couldn't figure out what was going on with the speakers, right? So all of a sudden, it stopped. And then the comedians start going up, and then they're about to introduce me, and the host comes up, and he's like, "Okay, guys, we figured out what happened to the speakers. Somebody put the chicken in the microwave, and it's causing static feedback on the speakers. So please do not put the chicken in the microwave." And then they're like, "Ladies and gentlemen,
Inglewood show I ever heard."
And then they said, "And please welcome to the stage, Greg Baldwin." Right. So I go up on the stage. It's a dog fight, right?
Oh, off the top. This is a dog fight. It's dog fight off top because now they can't put their chicken in the microwave, and you coming up there. And you coming up there, the colonizer is coming up there,
just looking like
stopping
Greg,
us from our chicken. It's like, yes, that is my doing. I have said no more chicken for the rest of the show.
Nobody can eat the chicken, dude. So I'm doing my set. It's a dog. I'm dying, right? I'm dying, and I do this joke, and it doesn't really get a laugh. And then some old dude in the back, he's in a wheelchair. He yells out, "Put the chicken in the microwave."
Yo, that has to be a goated heckle. That heckle is so elite. Hey, put that goddamn chicken back in the microwave. We doing this here. Where the chicken at? That chicken became the Sandman for y'all. That's what it was.
Oh yeah, you're right.
The chicken became the Sandman for y'all. It's like, fuck the Sandman. We're gonna put the chicken in the microwave.
That is the best heckle in the history of all heckles.
Oh, bro.
Yo, that is hilarious, man.
Microwave.
Put the chicken back in the microwave, man. What's going on here? That's tough. That's a tough one.
That was awesome. I'm Dustin Ibarra.
I'm Greg Baldwin.
Find us on social media and on the web at goodthingspod.com.
You can also find us on Instagram and YouTube at Good Things Are Happening Podcast.
We're on Patreon. Sign up because we're going to have some cool stuff on there.
Like really, really, really cool stuff.
So dope we can't even talk about it. Yeah. And remember, when life gets you down, good things are happening.
Good things are happening. Help somebody.